believe we have a guest artist for a moment. I'll take this out of the way.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Just because I walk as if I have oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my sassiness upset you? Don't take it so hard just because I laugh, as if I have gold mines digging in my own backyard. You can shoot me with your words, you can cut me with your lies, you can kill me with your hatefulness, but just like life, I'll rise. Does my sexiness offend you? Oh. Does it come as a surprise that I dance as if I have diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past rooted in pain I rise. A black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling and bearing in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear I rise. Into a daybreak miraculously clear I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave. And so, wow. There I go.
I just realized I set it up so that Maya Angelou opened for me. Now, I didn't name the topic for this month, which is Reaching Higher, nor did I name the talk, which is Still I Rise. But it seemed to me if that we're going to use that title, we should give, wow, I'm a little echoey up here. We should give props to the person who used it first. We should give props to the person, that I borrowed it from. I don't believe in borrowing another artist's work without giving the citation. Not that anybody had to guess that Still I Rise was written by the great Maya Angelou. But until I watched it like that, I had never heard the whole thing performed. I'd read it. But all week long, I'm like, does my sassiness offend you? I don't care. I'm going to say it my way. But does my sassiness offend you? Here's part of what you need to be warned about with this teaching. When you come in here, you are going to begin to meet the person you really are. You are going to begin to understand the magnificence of your soul. You are going to begin to understand that you are a lot more than your mean grandma or your in a bad mood dad. Any of those people, anything that they could see about you. That you really are walking as if you could go in the backyard to your personal gold mine and call on the source of all good. Because that is the truth of you. One of the challenges we have had in this movement is that we raise kids in this movement. We've been around long enough that we're starting to meet the adult children that came in here, as 5 and 6 and 7-year-olds. I believe it's Reverend Dr. David Alexander. When he started as just a little guy, he sat in front of my predecessor. And he insisted on wearing a tie, just like Dr. Bob. And he would sit there. I mean, his feet didn't even reach the ground. He'd just sit there with his little feet dangling. And now he is once again one of the leaders of our movement. He is the chair of our leadership council. He has come a long way, baby. And one of the things that I know about the youth raised in this teaching is that they know they can do, have, and be whatever they want. And one of the challenges some ministers have had with them is that they come across as arrogant. They know who they are. They walk into a room and own it. They don't ask permission to be magnificent, and they don't need you to rise up or down to their level. They are not going to apologize for making you look in the mirror and see all the ways that you're playing small. And they don't need your permission to notice for themselves how great they are if you should happen to miss it. Because they'll just bring it up themselves. So some of our youth get called arrogant. Their sassiness offends us. You know what? For the love of all that's holy, keep offending me. Come on, kids. The youth of today, the young adults, what we would call the emerging leaders, have grown up in a different world than we did, guys. They made it through 2008, and so they don't really trust pensions and necessary, saving for retirement. They grew up through, leaving the gold standard and a whole bunch of other stuff that has happened in America since then. They grew up after civil rights. When I was born, I could not have a check. Well, obviously an infant can't have a check. I'm sorry. I obviously did a bad job of assembling myself today. Works better. Nope. Okay, so we're just going to make a quick change here. I thought it felt a little weird, but pardon me while I strip on stage. Sorry. Hey. Ba-da-da-da. Okay, let's try this again. Oh my goodness. So, what the heck was I talking about? So yeah, I used to listen to some complain about the arrogance of the kids today and how they couldn't be depended on to do things right, according to the way they always used to be done. The times are a-changing, guys. One of the best things that people who don't do it the way it should be done is that they find a new way of doing things, and they might be better. The other thing you're going to learn in this teaching is that no matter how broken you have felt, no matter who has told you what your diagnosis is, no matter who or how many times you were told you can't learn to read, you can't be rich, you don't have what it takes, you don't fit the bill. In this teaching, we say that just ain't so. We absolutely refuse to be held down or made a slave to old thoughts and bad information. Bad information like, because you're a woman, you can't. Because you're not white, you can't. Because you're not, 6'2" with eyes of blue. I'm pretty sure that's not how the song went. But just because you are, you have blonde hair or have brown hair or don't have any hair, that doesn't mean you can't create the world that works for everyone, starting with the world that works for you inside your own heart and mind. So here's the thing. None of that was in the talk I wrote. That's okay. We as religious scientists do sometimes get called arrogant or pie in the sky. Sometimes, and I've experienced this, somebody asks me what I do and I say I'm a minister. And they go, what? You're a what? They have those? The best one was, what's a minister? my niece was raised Catholic, so she's like, what's a minister? I'm like, it's kind of like a female priest, honey. Oh, okay. But better. Because I have Maya Angelou opening for me. So one of the things that I was taught by one of my colleagues, and I actually have it, I had it on a mug, it says, I'm not bossy, I'm the boss. And sometimes we need to remember that. It's not that we're being bossy by saying, this is the world that I would choose to live in. We happen to be the boss. Does that make sense? We think we're working in the mailroom. The trouble is we're really the CEO. There's actually a TV show about that, what's it called, Undercover Boss. They come in and get trained to work in their own company to find out what's really going on, and they find the most amazing people working for them. What if you found out you had the most amazing people working in you, and it was that person that you thought you should probably fire because they have attitude? I will tell you that, there's a lot of issues going on in the world today. You might have noticed we have some things to handle. There's a lot of issues going on in the world today. We're attacked by our own tree. Gotta love our signer. So it's really a matter of perspective. One of the things that I often hear is that there's an issue with the disparity in wages. There's an issue with the income inequality that happens in this country. And I think most of us have seen the thing about if you work for the federal minimum wage, which is supposed to be $7.50 an hour, unless you are a server in a restaurant. Working 40 hours a week, you'll make $1,300 a month. There is no place in this country where one person working at that rate can rent a 2-bedroom apartment. Now, when I was born, I know it seems like a long time ago to some people, seems like 5 minutes ago to others. You could actually raise a family on that income. You could rent a home that was a decent home, and you could provide for a spouse and even some children. You wouldn't be eating lobster every day unless you went out and caught it yourself. But back then, the lobster didn't have much mercury in it, so you could do that. So you can't afford a 2-bedroom apartment. You know what? I did the math, and I have, in the house that I just sold, a studio apartment that's 400 square feet or so. You couldn't afford my studio apartment, and I keep it a couple $100 under market value, and I pay all the utilities. You couldn't afford that without using half of your income. On the other hand, so there's that way of looking at it, that we have our poor. We shame our poor, and we're not being terribly fair to them. On the other hand, do you know what the global median income is? Any guesses? What's the median? 3,000, 9,000, 9,600, 4,000. Okay, the usual guess is in the tens of thousands. The actual number in 2018 was $2,100 a year. And 50 cents? No. $2,100 a year. So what we could make on the federal minimum wage in about 2 weeks is what other people make in a year. Our poorest of the poor are richer than something like 80% of the rest of the world. See, it's a perspective thing. Who do you consider your neighbor? The person who's driving a Beamer down the road next to you, or the person on the other side of the globe trying to make it and carrying water 5 miles each way uphill in this, well, maybe not in the snow. Here's what I want you to consider. What is it that we do as religious scientists that takes care of both the feeling of wage inequality in our country and the idea that global poverty is a bigger picture. What is it you think I'm going to ask you to do about it? Pray. The answers to that question has been pretty much the same for 11 years now. No matter what I ask, when I say, what should you do about it, it's pray. What's the next thing that you think might be helpful? Donate, that would be lovely. Teach. Think, I missed that. Before something and against nothing. Okay, I'm going to tell you to raise your expectations. Here in the richest country on earth, I'm going to tell you to ask for more. I'm going to tell you, think outside. I don't usually tell you to do anything. But I'm going to suggest very, very strongly that you get a bigger picture of what is possible. Because if you notice, everything I just said suggested that real wealth and real success are entirely about money, about cash. Guys, you can't eat money, especially the middle part. It really hurts. What if what we really need to do is get a bigger idea of prosperity? What if we need to raise our expectations and reach further and reach higher? That's something I haven't done since 2019, lick my finger to move a piece of paper. We have a wonderful teacher in our movement named Edwene Gaines. Has anyone heard of her? I know she only recently stopped touring at like 110 billion years old. Okay, maybe 80-ish, maybe 90-ish. She has 4 parts of a definition that are all required for her to call something truly prosperous. The last one is all the money I can spend. And she and I have the same attitude. We can spend some money, honey. I got my mother's champagne taste, and I'm not sorry. However, number 1 is a vitally alive, healthy body for this God being that we are to express through. So true prosperity requires that our physical expressions support who and what we think we are. That we should have access to health care that supports us not in being not sick, but sorry, I keep moving it too close, but that supports us in actually being healthy. Now, according to Ernest Holmes, the founder of this philosophy, a good 90% of our physical well-being has to do with how we're thinking. Have you ever met anyone who could win the lottery and still find a reason to complain? I'd be willing to be that person. I'll find something if it helps. But there are people who are so in their pain that no matter what good is going on around them, they can't see it. They simply cannot see it, and they don't give themselves permission to experience it because it hurts too much. It hurts too much to be told they're wonderful and lovely and good because they've been told the opposite so many times. I've worked with enough abused kids in my lifetime, and that's part of what I did before I became a minister, to know that sometimes the healing is more painful than the original wound. And so the willingness to walk through healing takes a lot of courage. And if we can do it, if we can change the way we think about our bodies and what we deserve and who we really are, then what will happen is our body becomes more physically healthy. And we get the vitally alive body that supports the physical expression of the divine as us. That is required for true prosperity. Number 2, relationships that are joyous, satisfactory, intimate, honest, and nurturing, and ones that work all the time. Not just when I'm being a good girl and being and doing and having exactly what somebody else wants. not just when I earn it, that love. These relationships that she's talking about are true chosen family, what some people might call tribe. And the truth is that sometimes we have to work really hard to get to where that feels like it's normal, where it's no longer okay to, even for those of us who went through what I call a character building childhood. I am all of the Animaniacs in here, guys. I had such a character building childhood. Even for those of us who have experienced the exact opposite of what we want, we have to kind of learn how to root out the type of love that is conditional, the type of love that is some of the time and when it's convenient. We have to learn how to give love when it's inconvenient and hard. And so we have to learn, we have to reach higher for an even better kind of love. For love that doesn't depend on me living in Arizona, to be friends with people in Arizona. I was so honored. Last night I got a text from a kid, a young person that I worked with back when she was a young person, saying, Reverend Kathleen, this is stellar. I need your help. I have a friend who is stuck in Payson, Arizona, blah, 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 blah. This is what's going on. I was so honored that Stellar reached out to me after not having talked to me for years, because, she has a life in Texas, and knew that she could trust me to reach out to that person that I don't know, simply because of the love that she feels for me. It spurred me to share that love on. One of the changes in me over my past 11 years here, and I'm so proud of this, I noticed it recently. Kids and animals will just walk up to me now. Have you ever noticed that there are some people that kids and animals just kind of gravitate to? I used to think that was my sister, not me. And I have been a religious scientist long enough to know it's not either or. It can be both and. To me, it is a huge compliment when animals trust me without any reason to, because they're reading at a much deeper level than any words I'm speaking. As you become rich in religious science, as you become rich in this philosophy, sometimes instead of making money, you get a purr and a headbutt. I got those this morning. It was lovely. The third one is work we love so much that it's not work, it's play. Now, all of us have a thing we love to do. All of us have a thing that we think can only ever be a hobby. Maybe you were told, it's not reasonable to think that you can be an actor or whatever. By the time I was in 6th grade, my mother knew I was destined for Broadway. By the time I graduated with my bachelor's degree, I was smart enough to know that it wasn't reasonable to expect to make money on a stage. It took me years to notice. 6th grade me wins. So, there are things that we can do. There are geniuses within our souls that know more than our rational adult. The last time Eugene Holden spoke here, he dared everybody to skip out of here after the service, not now. And do you know, I couldn't remember how? I had to go home and practice. My cats thought I was nuts. But work that we enjoy so much that it's play, not work, for me, it's building systems in my head that raise people up. For me, it's writing talks. I love writing talks. I write great talk. My best talks ever was under sedation when I was getting dental work done. I can't remember what they were, but they were awesome. And apparently I was very amused by them because they had to stop working because I kept giggling. I was funny. All of these things are what it looks like when you come from a heritage like Maya Angelou. and you have the audacity to stand on a stage like that, in a dress like that, and say, does my sassiness offend you? When she did her work, and she obviously did her work, what she was able to do was go from a childhood that was challenging, go through whatever it is that she went through, and all of us have that thing that we go through, and stand up there and claim her greatness, and claim her sassiness, and her sexiness, and her power, and her magnificent soul. One of the things that we do in religious science, one of our, I guess you could call it a goal, is that we are awakening humanity to its spiritual magnificence. Have you heard that phrase before? That is our purpose as an international organization, is to awaken, not give, not teach how to, but awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence. And then be able to stand on top of that mountaintop and say, and still I rise. And so what we're going to do now is pray all of that into being. Because the truth is that as magnificent as you fear, you think, I think you are, it's more than that. All of that greatness about you that you're hoping somebody won't notice, then you won't have to live from it. You are even more than that. And you have the power and the strength and the support of your community to live that life. And so I ask you to join me now in consciousness. Some of us like to close our eyes when we do this. And be with me now. Simply be. That is true love. That is true wealth and true prosperity, is to simply be at one with the all. At one with the source of all being, the source of all light and love and truth, the actual energy of life itself. The truth is that we are magnificent, that we are deserving of headbutts and purrs, that we are all deserving and worthy of absolute trust from those that we want, that we continue to send love to. We are absolutely one with the all good, with the omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient source of all life, the energy that has taken form as the universe and everything and everyone in it. That ultimate good is in form as each and every one of us, in our physical bodies, in our lives, in the bodies of our affairs, in our relationships. All of that is this thing we call God. And as that is the truth of our being, it impels the rest of the world to shift and understand and come into a truer alignment with who we really are. And so there is an end to poverty. There doesn't need to be jealousy or envy, because everyone has enough. Because everyone is loved enough and feels it. Because everyone understands that their work is the work that brings them joy. That the body that they live in is worthy of care. And so I bless and celebrate this truth that is so freeing, that is so uplifting, that even when we reach the very heights, Spirit says, and still I rise. Still I rise. Spirit lifting us up in this moment is awesome. And I am so grateful for all that it is. And so I let it be, and I let it do its thing. And so it is.